While scouring through YouTube for videos to cover, I come across all kinds of people. Check out my second video and you'll see an example of a real winner. However, sometimes I find videos made by people that I imagine are really nice. This video is one of those, and the channel's name is Flat Earth Talk. The narrator is a guy named Andrew, and he seems like he's a genuinely nice guy. Usually I'm looking for people that I feel that I generally wouldn't like in real life, but this video was so easy, I couldn't resist.
Hi, my name's Andrew, and I love God.
That's an interesting way to start a video, but okay.
I'm a born-again man who has the Spirit of God. I don't like labels, but I must say that in 2016, I became a biblical flat earther. Now, before you call me nuts or absurd or off of my rocker, just know that I believed in the globe ball earth model for 29 years of my life. Basically my entire life, up until 6 months ago. When I first heard the term flat earth, I laughed and mocked and called anyone who believed that the earth was flat was crazy as hell. What I found, however, is that the more I looked and listened to them, and the more that I considered that the earth could be flat, it all started to add up, and the proof kept on stacking up. I love space, the concept and the idea of the heliocentric model, but there are so many flaws in it that I can no longer believe something that has no proof, as the ball earth model has none.
Wait a minute. Say what you said at the beginning again?
I became a biblical flat earther.
That's what I thought you said.
Make no mistake, you must research something is flat earth on your own, and I'd love for you to learn the top 5 reasons why I became a biblical flat earther in 2016. Please keep an open mind, and thanks for watching my video. Here's the top 5 reasons that I no longer believe in the globe ball earth in 2016. Number 1. Space is fake. Space may be the final frontier, but it's made in a Hollywood basement. Red Hot Chili Peppers.
You know, Ziggy Stardust might have something to say about that.
Did you know that there is no real true photo of the Earth from space? We're taught that these images are, but even NASA themselves openly admit that all these images are done in Photoshop. They are composite computer-generated images. And if you look close, you can see all the discrepancies in each of them, how some of the continents do not match up in size, and how the clone tool was used to create the clouds.
No, he never said they were fake. He said they were Photoshopped because they have to be. The satellite that surveys the ground doesn't orbit at that high of an altitude, so it takes passes over and over and over again, and there are gaps. And so instead of showing us just, strips of land and clouds, they have to Photoshop the clouds a little bit just to make it look right, okay? It's not faking it. And just because they're composites doesn't mean they're faking it either. Go into your living room and take a picture of each of your walls and stitch it together. That's a composite. Does that mean your living room is fake?
Footage from the ISS is easily faked using a green screen and what is known as a zero-G plane, as I'm sure of other methods as well. The plane flies high up in the air and then does a basic nosedive, producing an environment where everything is just in free fall. We can see here that this woman seems a little bit on edge and is clearly feeling unsafe, as I imagine most would in a plane that's in a free fall.
For someone who says they've done enough research to believe this stuff, you don't seem to have done much. The zero-G plane gives you about 20 to 30 seconds of weightlessness at a time. And there are hundreds and thousands of videos on YouTube that show astronauts in full weightlessness for much, much, much longer than that. There's a video I saw, I think it was Chris Hadfield or one of the astronauts talking to a class of high schoolers in Canada, and he was weightless for like 20 minutes. It's not a plane, man. Come on.
NASA alone pulled in a whopping $18.5 billion in 2016. Reason to lie? Yeah, very much.
Now there's an interesting point. I'm really glad you brought that up. NASA has somewhere around 18,000 employees to pay for. Not to mention all the other stuff that it does, like storm tracking and guarding Antarctica to keep everyone out. Here's an interesting article I found on a Christian website. American churches receive record $115 billion in 2014. I mean, Kenneth Copeland's worth like $750 million and has 3 private jets. Joel Osteen's worth $40 million, and here's a picture of his house. Here's a picture of T.D. Jake's house. Reason to lie? Yeah, very much. You know, you'd think that if the Illuminati or the reptilian overlords that facilitate the globe Earth hoax were into making money, they'd start churches rather than space agencies.
Number 2, there is no curve. Last time I checked, a ball shape has to have a curve somewhere. But in fact, once you truly look, you will find none. Anywhere. There's none. The proof of this is in objects that can be seen from certain distances over water.
One thing flat earthers love to accuse us globers of is just regurgitating what we're told. Never mind. Regurgitating's too big of a word. They say we repeat what we're told and don't check it. Well, one thing they love to overlook is the height of the camera in these pictures. Grandmere Park is about 587 feet above sea level. A quick Google search will show you that. I added 5 feet for your tripod. That gets you about 592 feet above sea level. At a distance of 57 miles, that means only 493 feet of Chicago is hidden, which is about what you see in that picture. It's probably even more. Don't just take what the flat earth priests tell you and run with it. I thought you said you did research.
Number 3, no movement. Movement of the Earth, whether it is the 1,000-mile-per-hour spin, wobble on its axis, or the blindingly fast speeds it's going around the sun or moving through the Milky Way, they are never observed, felt, or even recorded ever in history. It's never been measured or have been found to move, and just speculated in theories. It's perfectly still, and we can prove this using science and repeatable experiments. The gyroscope is an instrument that will retain its rigidity in space and should appear to turn if the surface it is on is rotating, such as the Earth should. So in fact, if the Earth were spinning at all, we would notice this movement in the gyroscope. However, we can see that we observe no motion.
Yep, you're correct about the gyroscope. We would definitely detect a drift if the Earth is in fact rotating. A 15 degree per hour drift. The spin of the Earth isn't fast. At all. It's 1 rotation per day. The angular speed is 1,000 miles an hour at the equator because the Earth is enormous. Yeah, 1,000 miles an hour is really fast. Really, really fast. But when you're talking about something the size of the Earth, it's not fast at all. And certainly not fast enough to generate enough centrifugal force to throw us off of it. Here's a little clip from the Behind the Curve documentary on Netflix, where Bob from Globebusters talks about the experiment they did using a very, very precise gyroscope to try to measure whether or not there's any rotation to the Earth. It's all you, Bob.
We carried out an experiment to test rotation to the Earth. If the Earth is spinning at 1 rotation every 24 hours, that means that every hour it has to turn 15 degrees. And if the gyroscope is mounted anywhere on Earth, it's going to drift. In today's 21st century navigation systems, they're using what's called a ring laser gyroscope. It is extremely precise. If we could simply get one of these ring laser gyroscopes, we would be able to prove once and for all that there is no rotation to the Earth. One of the people in the community actually purchased one for $20,000. But what we found is when we turned on that gyroscope, we found that we were picking up a drift, a 15 degree per hour drift. Now, Obviously, we were taken aback by that. Wow, that's kind of a problem, right? We obviously were not willing to accept that, and so we started looking for ways to disprove that it was actually registering the motion of the Earth and that it in fact was registering the motion of the sky. So the next thing that we set out to do was to encase the fiber optic gyro in what's called a zero Gauss chamber to see if we could actually shield the energies being generated by the heaven. And we were unsuccessful with that, unfortunately. So the next thing that we're going to try is encasing the entire apparatus in bismuth.
Notice how Bob said, we were not willing to accept that. Willing is the most important word in that sentence. And if you're not willing to accept evidence that's contrary to your belief, even if it's your own evidence, then you're not looking for the truth. What you're looking for is called confirmation. When real scientists do science, they construct a hypothesis, they test the hypothesis by doing an experiment, and then they analyze the data. After they analyze the data, they draw their conclusion. We use the gyroscope to test whether or not the Earth is rotating. We found that it is. Now, our conclusion is the Earth is rotating. Flat Earthers don't accept evidence that contradicts the Flat Earth fairy tale because Flat Earthers don't do science, and they're not looking for the truth. The reason you don't feel the movement of the Earth is because you don't feel constant motion. You feel acceleration and deceleration. If you drive down the highway and set your cruise control, you don't feel like you're moving. You feel like you're just sitting in a seat in a car. Saying that no one has ever measured the rotation of the Earth or that it can't be measured is just ridiculous and shows how little research this guy has done, or research that he's willing to accept as real. We've already seen how deep his personal incredulity goes. Now his video is a few years old, so it was created well before Bob measured the 15-degree-per-hour drift with his $20,000 ring laser gyroscope, so I'll let that slide, but you're going to have to do way better than that if you're going to persuade anyone that you're correct, especially now that Bob has all but crushed the notion that there's no rotation.
We are perfectly still and going nowhere. The Michelson-Morley experiment also found this as well. When the experiment found out that the Earth was not spinning, along comes Einstein to the rescue to make up his theory of relativity, which is just a theory and has never been fully proven.
Here's my hypothesis. You don't do research. Here's my experiment. Watching your video. Here's my conclusion. You don't do research. Do a Google search, look up what a scientific theory is. It's literally the highest level of confirmation that science has. The reason it's the highest level is because it has the most evidence. And yeah, I'm sure they got on the phone with Einstein and said, hey man, you're about to go on your lunch break. Can you whip something up for us real quick and help us out with this?
I'd never considered is the fact that airplanes would have to do all sorts of maneuvers just to land on a surface that's spinning at 1,000 miles per hour in one direction. It would simply be impossible for them to land, and wouldn't they fly faster to their location if flying against the spin of the ball? This crazy mess does not work, and it's far from what is real and what we see and observe. In fact, flight simulations always use a flat, non-rotating Earth to train pilots, and the training of these pilots is extremely important for the safety of you, myself, and many, many more. The flight simulation is further explained in detail in Edward Hendry's book, The Greatest Lie on Earth, proof that our world is not a moving globe.
Next time you're doing that acceleration, deceleration, constant movement experiment going down the highway with your cruise control set, toss a ball into the air and see if it flies through the back windshield. Spoiler alert, it doesn't, because it's moving at the same velocity the car's moving. Just like when you're in an airplane, you're flying through the atmosphere that's moving the same speed as the Earth. This is getting a little ridiculous, and it's beyond laughable at this point.
Number 4, water. The nature of water is always flat when left unmanipulated. It always finds its level. It never curves or bends. The only time it does so is with what's called surface tension, and surely surface tension doesn't have waves like our oceans do. It's called water level for a reason, and not water curval. No matter what container it is in, water will always remain flat.
At this point, it's pretty obvious that all you do is parrot what the Flat Earth priests tell you on YouTube, and you don't actually do anything for yourself. So let me give you a little tip. Get a dropper full of water, get a piece of glass or a piece of wax paper or a piece of tin foil or a piece of something hard that's not going to absorb the water. Drop a little drop of water on there. What's it do? It curves. Look at the air bubble in a level. What is it doing? Curving. Water curves all the time. It curves everywhere. And it also curves around the Earth. This all harkens back to flat earthers not doing real science and doing it backwards. They think the Earth is flat, and they know that if you put water in a tube and bend the tube up, atmospheric pressure, that they don't believe in, will keep it level. So they use that as evidence that the Earth is flat and that no other water around them ever bends. Notice they all say water finds its level and that water doesn't curve. Flat Earth priests told them that, and they are unwilling to accept all the other evidence around them that water does, in fact, curve.
Number 5. Horizon always rises to eye level. No matter what height an observer on the Earth will rise to, the horizon will keep on rising to eye level, which is impossible on any size ball whatsoever. Any height you rise on a ball, the horizon would stay fixed in place, but this is not what we observe. The horizon keeps on rising at any height, clearly indicating a flat plane we are on instead of a ball. With the enormous amount of others coming awake to the globe deception, they are launching many more high-altitude balloons to see what we can find out on our own. We are finding that the sun is much closer, indicated with a hot spot underneath where it is, which is a clear indicator that is not 93 million miles away, as we're told. In fact, the number 93 really has a lot of Masonic ties and is simply a number found in Jewish gematria, which they love to use when fooling the masses. No proof of the ball. Now, I know it sounds absurd, but when you have been searching for the answer to the flat Earth versus globe debate for a while, you will see a lack of true evidence for the ball and that the Earth is truly flat. Each ancient civilization knew the nature of the Earth and how it is. The greed and evil nature of man came along and tried to turn the true nature of Earth into something it isn't to fool the masses and to lead them away from our God. It's this simple. When you trace back the origin of the globe, there was truly no proof or evidence, just mathematics that could work out in favor of the model with the Earth orbiting the sun. The globe was pieced together over a course of many years, and many people had to work on it to get it to work correctly. And of course, it only worked with the theories fed to us by Newton and Einstein. Remember that they are just theories as well, and they've never been proven in any situation. Gravity doesn't actually make sense when you think about it, and a good example that it doesn't is in the following passage from Henry's book. Newton's theory of gravity is founded upon the premise that all objects are attracted to all other objects based upon their mass. Eric Dubé explains that this law of science has never been proven and cannot be observed. This magnetic-like attraction of massive objects, gravity is purported to have, can be found nowhere in the natural world. There is no example in nature of a massive sphere or any other shaped object by which its virtue of its mass alone causes smaller things to stick to it or orbit around it. There is nothing on Earth massive enough that it can be shown to cause even a dust bunny to stick to or orbit around it. Try spinning a wet tennis ball or any other spherical object with smaller things placed on its surface. and you will find that everything falls or flies off, and nothing sticks to or orbits it. To claim the existence of a physical law without a single practical evidential example is hearsay and not science. Just remember that many of us are just now waking up and are asking questions ourselves. It's not what we've been taught, but what we can prove ourselves. Here's to the Great Awakening. God bless you all.
There is so much nonsense in this last clip, and this video is already 20 minutes long, so I'm just going to hit this as quickly as possible. The horizon looks like it's rising to your eye level because when you take a cross-section of any sphere, it's a circle. And since the sphere we're talking about here is so big, it's going to look flat. I know I just said it looks flat, but it isn't. And if you go high enough away from the sphere, it starts to not rise to your eye level. And if you want more evidence of how the horizon works, I suggest heading over to Bob the Science Guy's channel or Wolfie6020's channel and checking out some of their videos. They're both pilots, and they have videos that talk about how the heads-up display in an aircraft will illustrate that you're just dead wrong. Do some reading. Ask some real experts. The sun isn't always 93 million miles away. That's just the average. At perihelion, it's around 91 million miles away, and at aphelion, it's around 95 million. So sorry, but your Jews are bad and lying to everyone nonsense speaks louder to your xenophobia rather than anything scientific. The globe model wasn't pieced together. Our understanding of the natural world around us was. Sorry to break it to you, but that's just science. We notice things in nature. Then we try to figure out how that works. When we're wrong, we change our minds. That's what adults do, and that's what real scientists do as well. Gravity can be observed. Once again, citing Eric Dubé just proves that you're parroting the flat earth priests, not really understanding the words that are coming out of your mouth. Watch the video of the ball and the feather and the vacuum. There you go. Observation. Nowhere can you observe things orbiting bigger things? Really? You do know that Saturn and Jupiter have 129 moons between them, right? This video was a lot harder to cover than I thought. Not because it was hard to debunk, but just the sheer amount of misunderstanding of pretty much everything is sometimes hard to deal with mentally. So I'll end it here. If you like the video, please like and subscribe and leave a comment. If you dislike the video, subscribe, leave a comment. And until next time, have a good day.